He was just a boy from Brownwood. No one could have known that he would grow up to be a confidant of presidents, a partner and friend to CEOs and cab drivers and everyone in between. And along the way, together with his partners, he would build one of the most successful advertising and marketing firms in America. No one could have known, but if they looked closely, there were signs. Like one fall day in 1965 at the Texas High School Football Championship game.
I remember that football game like it was yesterday. It was a cold December rainy day down in College Station. Brownwood versus Bridge City for the state championship. Brownwood versus Steve Wooster, who would become a great Longhorn football player. The very first play of the game, Steve Wooster took a pitch out, headed to the right side of the line, and was met by a 150-pound defensive back by the name of Roy Spence. You could hear the crash all the way to the top of the stadium, and Brownwood won that game.
Looking back years later, Coach Gordon Wood, the winningest high school coach in history, was quoted as saying that little old Roy felt there wasn't anything he couldn't do, a statement that would ring true throughout Roy's life. What you will notice about Roy Spence Jr., if you hang around him long enough, is that he brings the same energy and the same passion to every challenge he faces and every person he meets. Ask him who influenced him, and he will probably tell you his sister Susan, who was born with spina bifida. She taught him that you don't have to be able to walk to fly. His sister Mary Gordon, who taught him to see the humor and irony in all things. His dad, who was a salesman all his life, who taught him to see the good in everyone. And his mom, a teacher for 35 years, who taught him to be great at what you're good at, and the power of commitment in all he believed in. These were pretty good lessons for a small-town boy, and they followed him all the way to the bright lights of the University of Texas. Roy will tell you that UT leveled the playing field for a boy from Brownwood. What it really did was light a fire. The fire kindled his passion, his competitiveness, and his total belief in doing the right thing. It also kindled many lifelong friendships. Among them, the 4 people who decided they would stay together, stay in Austin, and make a difference in the world. And since none of them knew anything about advertising, they decided to open an agency. In Roy speak, this is where you jump off the building and build the wings on the way down. That was 1971, and the kids were beating the streets looking for business when an opportunity came along that would shape their destiny.
So we had started the agency in August of '71, and I think it was about 2 months later, in October, when Roy heard that Senator Ralph Yarborough, who was a revered Democratic U.S. Senator, was running in the '72 election cycle to try and reclaim his U.S. Senate seat. It just so happened that 1972 would also be the first year that 18-year-olds would be eligible to vote. So Roy actually got a meeting with him and went and talked to the senator about hiring us to handle his youth campaign directed to these new 18 to 20-year-olds. I didn't think much would come of this conversation, but it was about 2 weeks later when Roy gets a call from the senator saying how much he liked him and that not only did he want him to handle the youth campaign, he wanted him to handle the advertising for his entire statewide campaign. So here we are, 22 years old, with 0 experience, and find ourselves responsible for helping re-elect one of the most beloved Democratic senators of our state, a state which we quickly found out consisted of 254 counties and 21 media markets. So I think this was probably our very first time to actually jump off the building and build the wings on the way down. But more importantly, it was the exact moment when I realized right then and there that Roy truly believed that there wasn't anything he or we couldn't do.
So GSD&M cut its teeth on politics and went on for 2 decades to handle some of the most successful Democratic campaigns in history. And out of the early campaigns for Bob Kruger came an unlikely friendship that really kick-started the agency into the national picture. Herb Kelleher had been actively supporting for Kruger's opponent in the U.S. congressional race, and he was impressed with the winning strategy Roy had orchestrated. So he called him and invited him down for a drink. A mayonnaise jar full of tequila later, and they were friends for life. 6 years later, Herb called Roy and asked him to handle his little airline. That was 27 years ago, and the airline grew up, and so did GSD&M. Southwest Airlines was just the beginning. Walmart, BMW, AT&T, the Air Force. Roy has helped brand some of the largest companies in the world with the firm belief that what you stand for is just as important as what you sell. But if you asked Roy to name the one client he wouldn't trade for the world, it would most certainly be the state of Texas. From the legendary Don't Mess with Texas campaigns, to the Texas Lottery, to Texas tourism's Texas is a whole other country, Roy and GSD&M have helped shape Texas attitudes and habits. And of course, there's that school that lured the boy from Brownwood to the big city of Austin in the first place. So it was no surprise when UT called on him to help out on a campaign. He was all in.
Roy is a great one for sharing his enthusiasms. It's one of the really endearing parts of his character. And he met Jim Collins and was impressed with his book, Good to Great, and he thought, well, the university should try that. One of the wonderful things about that project was how well and quickly we agreed on some really radical things, such as the core value. The core, you could say, mission of the university is to transform lives. I think to be a distinguished alumnus of this university is to embody the core purpose, to transform lives for the good of society. And if there's anyone who transforms lives and institutions and businesses, it's Roy.
No agency has its finger on the pulse of Texas like GSD&M's Idea City. And Roy Spence is the heart behind that pulse. It's that heart that makes Roy stand up when things aren't right in the world. On the day after 9/11, in a car driving back from Washington, he made it his mission to create I Am an American, to ease the tensions that were bound to follow.
I am an American.
I am an American.
The day after Hurricane Katrina, he planned the creation of a disaster relief spot for the Red Cross and had it on the air 24 hours later.
Hope is more powerful than a hurricane. Help victims of Hurricane Katrina and thousands of other disasters across the country each year.
And in the days after the election of 2004, he wondered why religion had taken over the dialogue and polarized our nation. And he decided that what unites us is more important than what divides us. So he created the Amazing Faith of Texas and started a new dialogue.
I have known Roy Spence almost my entire adult life. Now that says something more about me probably than him. But during those years, he's been a constant source of shining optimism. You can count on Roy for a kind word to lift your spirits or a story that is perfectly Royish, that warms your heart. He's all about people, helping people, learning from people, cherishing people. And I learned early on about his commitment to his family and his friends, of whom I am very fortunate to be one. And have you ever noticed how Roy seems to have a sense of purpose in everything he does? Whether it's with his clients or the candidates he helps elect or the causes he champions that are so important to our country's future, Roy first and foremost is about making a difference. I believe the state of Texas and America have benefited greatly from Roy's good work and his indomitable spirit. I know I sure have.
But there are 4 people who have watched, nurtured, and encouraged this journey from their own unique perspective. From his wife Mary, he learned that once you have kids, there's nothing more important in life than their well-being. And from Courtney, Ashley, and Shay, he learned the true meaning of unconditional love and joy.
My dad is one of the most generous people that I know, and I think growing up in Brownwood, they did not have a lot when he was growing up, And so his family was taught, no matter how much you have to give, and it doesn't just mean money or material, it's your time, your love, your attention, just dedicating some part of you, anything, because everybody can be giving, you don't have to have money, you don't have to have material things to enrich other people's lives. And I think that's one of the most valuable things that my dad has taught me, always just to be very generous.
My father is, I go to him with almost everything, whether it's relationship advice or professional advice or friendship advice or just even trying to muddle through an idea or a problem. He's an incredible inspiration and can give great advice, but he also is an incredible listener and will always take the time if I need him to help me get through a situation.
That day in 1965, when the littlest guy on the field took out the mighty Steve Worcester. Notice was given. Roy Spence is here, and the world is a little better for it. Drink up, my friends, for tomorrow we ride at dawn.